on a Sunday. What are we now? 6 September. Had an event off the Mid-Atlantic coast. It didn't turn out to be a whole lot yesterday. Woke up this morning and looked at the visible imagery first. I'll show you that next. Was this massive operation that's happening as we speak across the northern Rockies, Great Basin, and even in the Pacific Northwest states. The whole of this mess, from Oregon, Idaho, California, northern central California, Nevada, Utah, now beginning to surge into Montana and Wyoming. Completely a chemtrail agenda. Now, near as I can tell, and you can see the stripes in here, and I'm going to go off this out a little bit so we can generate and show you how these trails are surging into Northern California. So those from Fresno, Bakersfield, the Central Valley, on up towards the Shasta region, and then into, say, Tonopah, Nebraska, seeing those trails coming on in. Here you can see them surging south. So either they're pushing this trough farther south than it would be otherwise, or the potential is they're building up this ridge, and that's often what I see is they build up a ridge of high pressure so it deflects the inbound jet stream, and in doing that, they can force more energy. You can see here's the main low as we get up over Canada, and I'm going to animate this, and we'll see this, and sometimes this doesn't translate on Facebook so well, and anytime we're dealing with some kind of compression, we deal with loss of quality, and that's just the way it is. And I'm going to do the enhanced view so we can see that this is where the operation is, and here's the low curling up. I saw some snow. Rainier had some last night, some snow, and even some of the prairie locations in the foothills of the Alberta Rockies, the Canadian Rockies. So this is kind of the cold first season cold event that's happening across the West. Apologies, my internet is a little bit slow today. That's what it's like when you're living out in the wilds. I'm down here in Colorado, so a distance away, still dealing with a tropical stream of energy coming on in. In fact, I'm not enjoying this. So let's go to water vapor, and it shows so much more clearly. Here's more trails coming in on the southern edge of this vapor plume, and they always work the edges. They always work the edges of everything. There's some of that monsoon moisture still working into the southwest, being entrained and pulled into Canada. So it's a fairly wet event, but a lot of this. All right, I want to go to the visible and bring that into view. And you can see the trails. This was earlier this morning, about 9:30 Pacific time, all across Oregon into Idaho. And let's stay with that picture. Slide it up, bring it into view. And you can see, good going, Scott. You can just see all of the trails into California, across Nevada, into the central areas. It looks like we got a fire going on here, so this is going to be a smoke plume from that fire. And this whole event, you see the stripes of the trails. Again, I don't know how this is going to translate when we go through YouTube's compression, Facebook's compression. Facebook's is much worse than YouTube's, and then all the way into the Snake River Plains of eastern Idaho. So that's what alerted me to the event. It was this widespread activity. So why is it happening? What could be happening? So let's go to the model runs, and here's the event across Alberta and another impulse. This is probably what they're trying to engineer. Flatten out this southern part of this trough because they're working at the very southern edge of it. They always work at the edges of these things. And so the storm doesn't really progress that far to the south. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. That's the trouble with these events, is it's very hard to predict what they're going to do until you can go back and analyze the situation a day or two later to see what might have happened. In either case, we've got an event that looks like it may be happening out over the western states, but this is some days ahead of time. It's 2 weeks out, not quite 2 weeks out, a week and a half out over California. So this would bring them some much needed rains as this storm pivots out. But who's to say that that's actually what is going to develop in time? Got another tropical storm, another potential hurricane rolling up the Baja Coast, way off the Baja Coast, and then that moisture would be drawn into this developing trough across the west. This feature, we'll watch it rotate back from over the Gulf Stream across the southwestern states, and this is an area that has been rather dry lately. So we could see an increased chance for some very beneficial rains across the southeastern states, as they honestly have gotten kind of dry lately, as the Palmer Index, the drought index, continues to indicate a developing drought from the Carolinas down across Georgia, Mississippi, Alabama. And when these places do not get typical tropical storms, hurricanes, that dose, that incredible pulse of water, and then late July has been dry, August has been dry, and with the incessant heat that is just typical for this time of year, drought can begin to manifest very, very quickly. Very quickly, and that has been the case this summer. Some rains into the northwest this last week. It kind of eased the D4 or D3, bringing it back to D2 conditions, which is still an intense drought across the Pacific Northwest. But my feeling is that we have got an El Nino coming. And this El Nino is going to wipe away the drought through California, Nevada, and probably a good chunk of the Pacific Northwest. Although we'd like to see some cold episodes coming in so we get some snowpack developing that have it not fall just in the form of rain below, say, 8,000 or 9,000 feet. We need snows down to the 4,000 foot level so we have some spring melt. The wild card in all of this is climate chaos due mid-September. Whatever that is. I have my ideas, but I'm not really willing to share them publicly. And it may deal with some external events coming in from outside this planet. So we'll deal with that when it arrives. All right, Scott Stevens, 6 September. Have a good day, guys. Keep looking up.